All right, so we're at Newport Harbor High School in Costa Mesa, California. Going to be speaking to some high school students today. We're speaking to the business and the media classes. So we're going to talk about mindset, what it takes to really get an idea out into the world, and how to use the internet to leverage whatever you're doing to eventually make a career out of it. So stay tuned. Thank you guys all for having me today. I've been out of high school for 20 years now, so I think it's very fitting that based on what I've learned over the last 20 years, what I wish I had in high school as well. Before we get started, I think the biggest thing is how much value I can provide you based on where you are exactly right now. Well, let's see, what grades are we in right here? Senior, juniors, or sophomores, everything? All right. Okay, awesome. And so how many people in this room know exactly what they want to do for a profession moving forward? Awesome. That's okay if you don't know what you want. And that's one of the things I want to talk today about as well is your mindset. There's so many different pressures while you're in high school to figure things out. And right after you get out of high school, know exactly what you want to do. To silence the noise is going to be a big thing at this state of your lives, but also to figure yourself out and to align your mindset moving forward to do whatever you want to do. So those that raised your hand know exactly what they want to do moving forward, and those that didn't might have some interests, might not be aware of it yet, might not have tasted what they wanted to do yet. But the fact that you're trying, and then to see what those opportunities hold in the future, because with the internet, you can do whatever you want to do. So I was very lucky when I was in high school that I got to take an elective. It was either drama class or public speaking. And I heard public speaking was a little bit more difficult. So I was like, oh, I can just go to drama class and chill on the couch and not doing anything. That's what my mindset was, because I was in high school, I was playing sports, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was kind of creative, but I was just kind of like smooth sailing. Wasn't the worst student ever, wasn't the greatest student ever. Because I accidentally took drama class, I fell in love with acting. Acting was my first love. So I went into acting class and I was creating music videos and sketches, right? And we didn't have iPhones, we were shooting on like my parents' camcorder with like horrible sound, and I thought I was amazing. I was dedicated to making some amazing stuff and showing it out to the world. And that's when I decided I want to dedicate my life to acting. That was my first love. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. That has since changed, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do right then. So I had a North Star, at least to put myself out there and to go at something. But then with the pressures of society, people start asking you, what are you guys doing? You're graduating, what are you guys doing? What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go to college? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And so I at the time came up with the best answer I could was, I'm going to go to Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, where my great uncle teaches ballet. And then everybody started, oh my God, that's amazing that you figured it out. Congratulations, that's awesome. But I didn't necessarily want to go spend 4 more years in Ohio in the cold. After a little bit more evaluating what I wanted to do, I made the decision to move to LA instead. So I'd gone to like a community college to kind of figure things out, make sure that I wanted to do the acting thing. I started taking ballet, I started taking other dance classes, vocal training and stuff like that. And as you'll see throughout my story, everything that I did eventually helped out in the future. Even if it's something you're doing right now, and the fact that you're in digital media or in business, all of this is going to help out in your future. It might not be immediate, but everything is going to help out in the future. So after I made the decision that I'm going to move to LA and pursue acting, I was introduced to a whole new world. I had just turned 20 years old, and I said, give me 3 years, watch what I can do. I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna be famous, I'm so talented, watch. After 3 years, I had just started making some friends. Nothing happened in those first 3 years. And that was the biggest kind of awakening for myself, was like, oh wait, I think I can do this, I know I can do this. But then you go out into the world and you see what it actually is, and then you see the competition, you see what creativity is out there. And so for my 20s, I really explored all these other different creative facets. I started doing hosting and modeling and music and live events, probably the least of acting at the time. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I got out to LA, I got to experience so much more. And then I found, okay, I want to do a lot of different things. And then when I was 27, I realized I kind of came to this conclusion that I was obsessed with being busy. So I tried a lot of different things. So my network was very wide, but there was no depth to it. So I was so grateful that I got the chance to then try all these different things, but then I needed to focus on one thing. I said, I'm only gonna write and create opportunities for myself as an actor, write screenplays. So I stopped doing everything else, and I started writing screenplays. And I did that for a while, and I started making some depth into my career, because now I'm creating vehicles for myself, and I was not a great writer. I had great ideas, but I was not a great writer yet. I needed to learn how to be a great writer. So as I'm writing and writing and writing, I play guitar every once in a while, and Snapchat just came out. You guys use Snapchat still? You guys use Snapchat most? Snapchat just came out, and I was at home, and I wanted to play guitar and sing on Snapchat when Snapchat first came out. So you had to hold the button down so you didn't have a free arm to play guitar and sing, right? So I looked around my room. I needed something to hold the button down so I could play guitar and sing on Snapchat. I grabbed my guitar capo. I don't know if there's any guitar players here, but a capo goes on the fretboard. It's like a clamp, it's an aluminum clamp with rubber on it, and it clips to the fretboard. It makes it a little bit easier to play guitar. So I grabbed that and I clipped it to my phone. And it put pressure there, but it didn't hold the button down. And it also propped my phone up. And I was like, okay, I'm putting pressure there, but I need something that's gonna feel like a thumb. That's what my thought was. This is how my brain works. And I wasn't sure if I was brilliant or if I was an idiot, but I was just going with it. So I looked around my kitchen, I saw a loaf of wheat bread. I cut a piece of wheat bread off, I taped it to the aluminum capo, and I put it down, and it worked. And I was like, oh, okay. Nobody else has figured this out at the time. So I started playing guitar and singing on Snapchat with my capo with bread on it, taped to it. And then people started DMing me, how are you doing that hands-free? Because at that point, everybody's at arm's length. If you don't have somebody with you, you're at arm's length. So I was like, okay, I think this could be like the biggest thing ever. I sold everything I owned. I stopped acting, I stopped doing screenwriting. Everything I had just moved, and I knew I had a big opportunity here. But up until this point, it was all creativity. It was no business knowledge. I was waiting tables and bartending, but I didn't have any business knowledge at this time. So I started to realize, okay, I have all this creativity in my head, but now I need to figure out how to make depth and make this product, get it out to the world, make $1 million, take that $1 million, sell the business, and go back to acting and writing and all that stuff. So I sold everything I owned. I started sleeping in my car, couch surfing on all my friends. This is at 27, right? So like in 10 more years, started from scratch. But when you have an idea and talking about it is not enough, right? Where they say like people that talk the most do the least. So I knew I needed to take this idea, and a mentor at the time said, I hope you gotta become a professional in making pitch decks. And I was like, okay, yeah, I had, we didn't have Google Slides, even though Google Slides is what we use now, but we use PowerPoint. So we started creating this pitch deck of what is this product, how am I gonna mass produce this, and how am I gonna get this out to my target demographic to make $1 million, et cetera. Long story short, from the day that I had sold everything to about 11 months later, there was only one big risk, was that Snapchat could change their functionality. And right when we were about to sign on for the funding to mass produce this new thing that we called Yo Show, Your Life, Your Show, is called Yo Show, Snapchat changes functionality, and I lost everything. I just took this 11 months to put it all into one thing, and it failed in front of everybody. And that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because now I had 11 months of this business knowledge of how to figure out what I'm doing, how to create it, how to get the idea into the world, and how to make a big impression on people. And when I did that, a moment happened that I think a lot of people would maybe push off to the side. And it was something you could say it's universe or what have you. But I was staying at my friend's house until his baby was born. And he said, hey, would you run my Instagram? And at this point, I did all this creativity. I just had this massive failure where I lost everything. And now I need to figure my life out. I'm going to go back to waiting tables because I'm going to try to fit into my old life. And so he asked me, hey, will you run my Instagram? And I said, nah, I'm going to go back and do it. And then I paused, and something in me made me say this. I said, how much would you pay me? And he said, $200 a week. I was like, okay, I just grew mine pretty successfully. So I was like, yeah, I'll run yours. We grew his, in the next 3 months, we grew him from like 400 to 6,000 followers on Instagram. And then from there, now I'm making $200 a week. I have no bills. I'm living out of my car, basically couch surfing. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm making $200 a week, so $800, roughly $1,000 a month. He then gets me another client for a restaurant, then now for another contract paying $2,000 a month. And I was like, wait a second, now I'm starting to make more money from my phone because I have the creativity and I also have the business knowledge of how the internet works right now. So I know how to get attention and I know how to make you look good because I've done acting, I've done little sketches, I've written things, I know this stuff. And I could work from my iPhone. I was shooting content on my iPhone, I was editing it, I was distributing it, I was engaging with this target demographic. And one client turned into 2, turned into 5, turned into 10, turned back into 4, and then became the levels of entrepreneurship where nothing is ever smooth sailing. What can go wrong will go wrong, but I finally was aligned, and that's when we created Mastermynd Media, which you'll see on the screens here. So Mastermynd Media is a full-service digital agency. So we do everything from helping people create content or do digital strategy for their social media platforms to grow leverage in numbers and then turn that into dollars by whatever their brand or business is. We do production, a lot of interviews with celebrities or influencers. We've done some music videos. We're doing a commercial next month in Detroit. But content creation, no matter if it's for your own personal brand that you want to create leverage in numbers, or if it's if you're doing content for somebody else, or if you're a part of a business, the internet is not going anywhere. I don't have to tell you that. So creating content online to create attention is going to be massive for you. Having the right mindset is going to help you have the most longevity in whatever you're doing. So as we talked about the pressures before, it also comes down to, are you working hard enough to actually match your ambitions? Are you working hard enough to actually see what you want to do come into fruition, right? So one thing I've been thinking on a lot lately is like, you're outside and you're started your first garden, right? You get into gardening and you just go out there and you just talk about it. You just talk about, I'm gonna plant this there, I'm gonna plant this there, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. If you continuously talk about it, nothing's ever going to be planted and nothing's ever going to blossom out in front of you. But because these different storms of negativity or people saying you suck or they say that you're not good enough doesn't allow us to actually put content out into the world that's going to actually build something of your future, to build your dreams. And once you start getting confident enough to put ideas out into the world, that's when things can start happening. However, when you do that, that's when the sharpening of your skill set starts to hurt a bit too. How many people out here create content and put it out on social media currently? So that's, and then what kind of content is this? Is this sports stuff? Okay, cool. What about you in the back? Memes? Okay, cool. Awesome. And for all of those that didn't raise your hand, is there anybody that wants to put more content out, or you want to put more content out? What do you feel like is holding you back from putting content out? Andrew?
I didn't have a thought yet, but if I would say one thing that would hold me back is trying to be perfect. But
yeah.
If you try to be perfect right now, then you won't be able to grow like a growth mindset and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, perfection. We're working with a client right now that like a design that we did for an album cover was like amazing a long time ago. And sometimes I have to tell people like, hey, you're getting in your own way, because we can keep on talking about perfecting this thing, but we can strategize all day. We can try to perfect this all day, but eventually you have to let the market decide. You have to put it out into the world and see what they think. Like, how many songs are out there that you, like, if you heard it for the first time, you're like, this is not a massive hit. And then you listen, then the song is like #1 on Billboard, and it's like, it's just catchy, or there was a TikTok dance or something about it. I think understanding where the current world of media is going to be really helpful. It can catapult you into whatever you're doing. It's also going to help you align yourself and to understand what you actually want to do. So most people get in their own ways because they want it to be perfect before they even put it out. But if instead of perfection, we remove that and we like dedicate ourselves to excellence. So excellence doesn't mean perfection. It means part of excellence is execution. So if you have an idea, okay, we need to give ourselves deadlines to hold ourselves accountable. And then by that point, once it's finished or once your deadline hits, to put it out into the world and start testing. Once we start testing and putting content out in the world, we can actually see what does well and what doesn't. That's what we call A/B testing. So everything that we do, if we're working with ourselves individually or we're working with a client, We strategize for a bit, we come up with content, we put it out into the world, and we see what happens with it. And then we can identify, oh, this does really well, this doesn't do well, this one does kind of well, what if we added this? Then we find out what does well, we go full throttle down that lane, and then we create new kinds of content to then A/B test as well. And over time, if you're consistent with everything, then you can build a brand over time. But with perfection, with thoughts of how other people think about you or your content you're putting out, right? Thinking about like, is this even what I want to do? And that's one thing that I think I was really lucky about growing up. I was putting out stuff, and if you guys saw this, you guys would be like, that was not it, bro. That was not, you were confident, but that was not it. But at the time, I was fearless. I was putting everything out there. I thought it was amazing. And over time, because I put it out there, what that allowed me to do, which I think is something I've really been thinking a lot about, is how to create yourself, how to sharpen yourself into this weapon of certainty. If you can go out in this world and you educate yourself through whatever lane of education, if you dedicate yourself to education, if you dedicate yourself to excellence, and you're out there and you're figuring out in whatever lane that you're going through right now, because this lane, like I said before, everything is going to eventually lead to one place or to several places, but everything's going to help out everything along the way. So if you're dedicating yourself to that and to that excellence, and you're executing, you're eventually going to get somewhere. And when you meet people and you're prepared and you can express yourself or communicate through your creativity and through your business knowledge, then people will start listening to you. When Yuli first started, Clubhouse was big in 2021, I think it was. Yeah, I don't know if you guys were on Clubhouse, it's the audio platform. It still has some monthly active users, but because everybody was home during the pandemic, it was huge. And when Yuli first came on, somebody had recommended to listen to me speak on Clubhouse, and he said because he was younger, people weren't taking him seriously. I love hiring people way younger because I feel like they do have an understanding of where the world is. So Yuli started, in the Clubhouse, he asked me, like, how could he be perceived to be taken more seriously because he was super talented, which while we were speaking, I looked at his Instagram and saw that he was super talented, and hired him on the spot as an intern. You start next week type of thing. One of Yuli's videos was one of our first videos on Mastermynd Media that went to 8.5 million views. It was a video of Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart took it, he shared it, and Yuli changed our strategy. Coming in from being 19 years old, never heard of him before, meet him on Clubhouse, he comes in, he's working for free for 3 months. He stood out because he changed our social media strategy, got massive attention right away, and now celebrities are sharing our stuff. And now, since then, we then grew our TikTok to over, I think, 270,000. Instagram is I think 30,000, but we started getting attention based on Yuli's strategy. And Gabe actually went to this high school, graduated a couple years ago. When he first came on as an intern, seeing how he was dedicated to making things happen, how to bring new ideas to the table, to give him an assignment, but him crushing the assignment, but then going above and beyond and creating more opportunities based on that as well. And it was so I knew right when I saw he started as an intern, Yuli started as an intern, both working full time now years later, and we were ensuring that whatever their North Star is, we're going there together as well. So figuring out a way to stand out amongst other people is going to be huge as well. And that's what these two guys did incredibly. And so now as we get more into the business side of things, if you have this idea or if you're interested in something, right, and you're sharpening yourself, you're going out there, you're putting content out, or you're educating yourself on whatever it is, say you want to be a veterinarian, right, and you're going through the internet, you're seeing what kind of content is out there, what kind of what has the history been as well. You start educating yourself to the point of certainty. And if you go out into the world with a level of certainty in whatever you're most passionate about, people can read that when you walk into a room. So when I first started, I just started giving away, similar to these guys, they came on as interns, weren't making any money right away, but they wanted to learn and they wanted to bring their ideas to the table, and things started making sense to me. We started growing collectively as a group. offered them full-time positions, and now we've been working together for several years. When I first started the company, I couldn't just go out to people and just only sell them. I got 2 clients, and I got really lucky. Have you guys read The Alchemist? Anybody read The Alchemist? Highly recommend reading The Alchemist. There's a point in The Alchemist where they talk about beginner's luck. So something that you're passionate about, or maybe a new venture where you go out, maybe your first video on TikTok, you put it out and it gets 10 million views. You're like, oh my God, this is like, I figured it out. It's gonna be like this forever. Or in my case, I get 2 clients right off the bat. Oh my God, I'm making $3,000 a month now from my phone. I don't have any expenses. This is amazing. But then you start understanding what business really is like, what it feels like to not get what you think you're going to get based on your previous understanding. So in The Alchemist, they talk about having beginner's luck, and that beginner's luck is to inform you that over time, when it starts getting difficult, that's the knowledge knowing that you are capable of doing everything you said you want to do. So over time, if you push through that, when you're in that valley of despair, when you're questioning if you should even move forward with whatever you're doing, maybe everything you've been spending your time on, that knowledge that, wait, but it worked before, I was in my element, I know I can do this. That's what pushes you through that moment and allows you to eventually find your success on the other line. So the 2 departments in here today, so we have business, right? What is there a specific side of business that we're in? Is it like?
Right now we're learning about
Human resources, amazing. And then in the media side of things, what are you guys working on?
We have something called
TV. Tar TV. So,
Tar TV?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's what we're working on right now.
So
Okay.
the students produce a bi-weekly television show that averages about 10 to 15 minutes per episode.
Awesome, amazing. So let's take that, for example, for a project that we'd want to take, right? And you guys just started distributing that one on YouTube, or is this a YouTube channel?
This is our first year that we're distributing on YouTube, yeah.
Awesome. Say you wanted to take Tar TV and you wanted to sell it to Netflix as a series. Does that feel like something that could be possible
In the future.
in the future?
Is we probably optimize segments that we do for Tar TV to like short films. For example, we're doing Tower of Terror. We could maybe optimize it for Netflix or something to eventually catch on or something.
Right. Well, so here's the thing about any kind of content you're creating, right? Right now, you have the biggest upside ever when it comes to the internet, and it's because of the organic growth. When you're using the internet strategically, you want to create leverage in numbers. When you have leverage in numbers, that allows people to see that other people are responding well to it, right? It's so important to blend the worlds of creativity and business. When you can blend those 2 seamlessly, number one, as you're showing a creative side of things, that allows you to present it to somebody so they can see exactly what's in your head. Even if it's a Pinterest board. We have one of our current interns wanted to create a brand new brand, and I said, okay, cool, show me what's in your head. So he created a Pinterest board based on everything. Then he found like a logo creator, now he built his business on a pitch deck. So now we can say, okay, now we have something, now we can evolve it. But a lot of times, say you're pitching to Netflix or an investor to mass produce this project, sometimes they don't have the creative imagination that you do. So if you can communicate your creative vision through a pitch deck or through a concept trailer or what have you, number one, it now shows where your vision's at, and it shows why it could be something that could contend with all these other shows. But then you have the business side of things where you can do all of your research. What are other shows that have been developed like this in the past, or what kind of similar titles are just like Tar TV that you could now put in the statistics and the understanding of where the current market is and why it has longevity, why there's franchise potential, how this is the first one, and then maybe other high schools, you're going to create like some kind of network where now you have 5 different high schools, right? How do you take your one idea and then now show that there's longevity to it? So that's visually, but also the business knowledge as well. So that's one thing. If you could take anything home, understand you have to communicate yourself with a level of certainty through a visual form. And once you start doing that, you can start really communicating at a high level and people will start giving you an opportunity. So take Tar TV, for instance. How long are the episodes? 10, 15, perfect, right? So with that, you have YouTube, whereas your main place of posting that. Now we need consistency. So are we posting it weekly?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. So now we have at least every 2 weeks. So we start helping people understand how and when that's going to come out. And then we have to use the organic growth of TikTok, of YouTube Shorts, of Facebook Reels, and Instagram Reels as well. Vertical videos for the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months have been the only way to grow organically on digital formats. And I know it's at the very foundation, it could be the same video, 59 seconds or less, and it has to be valuable, and it has to be posted on each of the 4 platforms to see where it does well. But that's where you're gonna get the most attention. You do get, obviously, it being a high school, there's gonna be people in the high school that wanna watch it. But outside of your high school, that's your main target demographic, right? So if that is your main target demographic, that's great. But now we need to share vertical videos on all 4 platforms. Now what happened is TikTok came out years ago, right after they bought Musical.ly. They changed the algorithm from a social graph where it's all of your friends and family that follow you to an interest graph. That's why when you go on TikTok, it says For You page, right? Because it's showing you videos that it thinks that you would be interested in based on how you were navigating on the app before. So we were talking about target demographic. Andrew and I were talking about target demographics right before. When you create a piece of content and you're putting it out on digital platforms, you're using hashtags differently than how they used to be used. You're now using hashtags to tell the algorithm who would be interested in it, right? So once you do that, it's gonna showcase it to people, and if it does well with those people based on how they engage with it or your watch time, it's gonna show it to more people. So when TikTok did that, all of the attention started going on TikTok because that's where everybody was getting the highest organic growth. They were getting the most viewership, the most following, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna spend my time on here because I'm getting much more attention than on Instagram where they've suffocated the organic growth. So Instagram saw that and they realized that they needed to change their algorithm to fit that as well. That's why they created Reels and then Facebook Reels as well. And then YouTube created YouTube Shorts because that's another way that people are behaving or engaging on these different platforms that feels, so they wanted to create something that felt like that on YouTube as well. So those 4 places had the highest organic growth over the last 18 months. When you're using all 4, we had one client who was, I think he's 55 years old, comes in, he finally wants to create content for the internet. He's only gonna post on Instagram. He's doing vertical videos. I wouldn't let him leave our studio until he downloaded TikTok. And the whole time he's saying, TikTok's not for me, man. I'm out of it. Like, that's not my age demographic. People aren't gonna, I wouldn't let him leave. He downloaded it. He put the same 100 videos on Instagram as he did TikTok. On Instagram, he grew from about 800 to 4,000. On TikTok, he grew from 0 to 170,000. And now he had leverage in numbers that he could take to influencer markets and say, hey, listen, this is the kind of target demographic I get. And when I go to the movie theater, now people would spot me and say, hey, there's the movie review guy. Now he has attention. Because you have attention, now he can get brand deals. Now he's getting brand deals, he can work less at the bar that he's bartending at, and he can start talking about what he wants to talk about on the internet regularly and create a career out of it, which is something 20 years ago wasn't even possible. But because he used our strategy of not only just posting on Instagram, posting it elsewhere to see what happens. And through that, he's gotten some like hate on some videos and stuff too, people saying he's crazy on different things. But for TAR TV, if we have the long form video that's 10 to 15 minutes on YouTube, but then you splice up maybe the hottest moments and you add some captions to it, you add some different music to it, you maybe splice in some different videos of like some other trending things that are going on in the world, those videos could go super viral because they have high organic growth, and then they drive traffic to the main video. And now you have a hot product that you created with all this like amazing classroom with all of these new tools that you have. Now you have a dope product and you have leverage in numbers. So now you can walk into Netflix and say, hey, listen, we get 100,000 views, 20,000 a week on this YouTube video, and we see that we could formulate that into this. Look at this pitch deck. Now you're looking at the pitch deck and it shows exactly how you would do it, what kind of guests you would have on in the future, how you would have different influencers that you reached out that want to be featured on it, what it feels like if they went back to school. You start having all of these different ideas and you can communicate that. And At that point, whether Netflix buys it or not, you now have given yourself the highest chance of success with the product. I had a producer friend of me, she gave us our first deal in 2017 for a film I wrote. It was a horror thriller that I had been writing since 2009. Wrote it in 2009, sold it in 2017. I went home from Sundance Film Festival and she asked me, hey, do you have any Christmas projects? And I was like, I don't really write Christmas projects. Like Lifetime stuff's not really my thing. But if I come up with an idea that feels like me, I'll do it. 2 nights later, I had an idea. What if I took the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and I personified the characters to kids on a high school basketball team, and the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer doesn't exist yet. So all the basketball players, their last names are, it's Brock Dasher and Ryan Rudolph and all of this. And another one of those moments, so similar to the bread moment. I was like, is this brilliant or is this stupid, right? But who am I to judge? My only job is to create a really cool project to pitch it to somebody. So I created a whole lookbook, sent it over to her. She said, I already pitched, the opportunity passed. But now I had this great idea in my back pocket. A couple months later, went to Detroit. I was filming a web series, but it was during the pandemic and things might, a 10-day shoot might get shut down at some point. So instead, we pivoted and we did the Rudolph concept trailer. It was a 4-minute concept trailer we shot in Michigan. And we put it all together last minute, shot it. I came back to LA after that. I just started editing for the next 12 days straight because we shot it on November 21st. I started editing it on, I think, December 1st, and then we released it like a week before Christmas. Out on the internet, the idea was, how could I make the world feel like this is a concept that already exists, or this is a film that's already been completed, and to see what people think about it. We released it. It went crazy viral. 85% of the people absolutely loved it. The other 15% of the people were so mad that I ruined their story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that they started hating on it. But because they were hating on it, it started fueling the video and started going even more viral. It was on Reddit, it was on WorldStar, it was like all over the world, people were writing different articles. Most of them were like, wow, this is a really creative idea. The other people were saying like, what does this guy's brain look like to even come up with something like this? Which I take as a compliment. But the best way that I found, this was right before vertical videos became super high organic growth. What I did was, I put it on YouTube. We started cutting some vertical videos, but I put the other, another version of it on Facebook. And I put money behind on Facebook ads to people that love basketball films or love sports films or love overcoming all odds or like bullying foundations. So you can put the actual target demographics that you can test in Facebook. So once I started pushing it out into those worlds, and because the quality was pristine, people started saying like, oh my gosh, where is this? Like, how can I watch the full thing? That's what I wanted to do. I wanted people to think that it was real, and they started sharing it like crazy. So at the end of the day, it goes super viral. I took it off the internet. I used those numbers in my pitch deck because now I could say it's amassed millions of views. I could say this is how people felt about it, and this is where I want to take it from here on out. But because I had the leverage of numbers to push it out there and to prove that this idea wasn't me just talking about it, this wasn't an empty garden of thoughts. This was me putting content out there, me testing the audience, me seeing what they loved, and then seeing how I could build a career within that IP. So that strategy is something huge. That was a strategy I didn't come up with. If you guys saw the new show, it's I think 2 seasons in now, Bel-Air. It's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Morgan Cooper created a trailer. Will Smith saw it after it went viral on the internet. Then they got 2 seasons at Peacock. So that's a strategy that you guys, that is at your fingertips. If you are interested in a certain business idea, or you are interested in creating your own TV show or film, you can use the internet properly to create a leverage in numbers and to take it to get other people to believe in it too. So based on everything that we spoke about and this capabilities, that this is another way. Initially we started with social media, and then from there we started branching out. Now we do logos and branding and podcasts. This is how we get new clients now. When we have client meetings and people are saying like, oh, you guys just do podcasts? We say, no, we do a lot of different things. So now we've become people's partner to the digital world. And just to give you an idea of what a deck would look like for you to present an idea to someone else. We'll kind of breeze through it, but just to kind of show you guys how to articulate who you are, what you do, and then how we go about things. So our divisions. right? So we do digital production. So a lot of what you guys are doing, we're doing every single day as well. So creating really great products, but also learning how to leverage them on social media, because everybody wants a great product, but they also want the most success with the product too. Because getting a client is one thing, keeping a client is maybe even more difficult. So interviews was something that we never thought about doing. But working with different clients, we became the production company that specialized in celebrity interviews. So these celebrity interviews are fast becoming the preferred medium for fans and followers to engage with their favorite stars. Unlike traditional broadcast media, digital media offers a level of intimacy and authenticity that can't be matched. So everybody, if you're doing an interview style show, again, you do long form, but then splice up those moments and put those out into the digital world as well to drive traffic to the main show. This was, a couple different shoots, some in New York, one with Jake Paul in Puerto Rico that we did, George Lopez. Commercials, creating unique ideas through commercial marketing as well. But commercials have evolved over time. So understanding where the current commercial, the current commercial market, instead of getting lost in how things used to be, we're always trying to bring new ideas to the table that are going to get your attention and actually convert into sales. Some more documentary style, like that authenticity. If you guys are working, say you're working with a dental company, it's not about just what they're going to make your teeth look like. It's also about how that dentist got to where they are. Why should we trust that person? So when you're creating founder stories, you want it to creatively look really smooth, but also really help people understand who they are. This is our studio in Hollywood that we shoot our podcast at. It's been one of the best marketing decisions for our company because we're constantly having new people come into our world that need help in the digital space. Some of our magazine. This was a venture that was out of the blue. I wanted to create Mastermynd magazine to really help people that have been doing well in digital media share their story about who they are and what they do. So we did about 4 issues, and eventually we'll bring it back. But this was one of those things, like, let's see how the market decides if a digital media is right for the times. And I'm looking forward to bringing this one back at some point. And then film and TV pitching materials. So this is something that I never even meant to start creating as a product for us to do. But because I was out there creating pitch decks for my own projects, people started asking how much we charge for them. And now we do several a year based on these different TV shows and films in the Mastermynd, our digital studio. So this is our place in Hollywood. It's like a work-live type loft situation. And upstairs we do all of our podcasts there. And this is now our dynamic team that, because the media space is so hot right now, and because you don't necessarily need an office space, our team works all over the United States. So some people are in Michigan, Chicago, Tennessee, a lot in LA, out here in Costa Mesa, Austin, Texas. But we meet every day at 9 a.m. for a quick 5 to 15 minute meeting, and then everybody goes about their business and makes things happen. We check in if necessary, but to have freedom in your lives, if this is an opportunity that you want to work in, being able to work from your computer, as long as you're able to hold yourself accountable and do really great work, it's so much flexibility. You don't have to spend so much time on all the commuting and everything as well. So this has worked out really well for us. Mastermynd Media was a company I created in 2016, as you see. But in 2014, I had an idea for just a music video production company. A friend and I wanted to create it together. We heard that Childish Gambino used the Wu-Tang name generator online, and that's how he figured out his name. So we put our thoughts into Wu-Tang name generator, our names, and it came up with Mastermynd Entertainment. And Mastermynd Entertainment was already taken, so we did Mastermynd with a Y. And then we tried to create this production company, and it failed within the first year. We just didn't have enough steam behind it. So then years later, when somebody asked me to do their social media, that's when I created Mastermynd Media instead, which actually flows way better. But what we developed is okay, what are we doing for our clients? Why are they excited about working with us? Why is it making an impact? And we've realized that to mastermind your life means to do what you love, work extremely hard at your dream, have the patience to see it through, and inspire the world in the process. So everything we do, we're in a foundation of that. And now, now we're about 7-8 years in, and I feel like we're just getting started. So yeah, we'll open it up to anybody if anybody has any questions, anything specific. Could be about digital media, business. Anybody have any thoughts?
I'd like to ask, how do you balance work and life as well as staying on top of your motivation and passion and staying consistent with it throughout
Yeah,
the
yeah. journey? I'm a big believer that work-life balance is exactly what you think it needs to be. So my first 10 years in LA, I thought I was doing enough, and understanding how much hard work it actually takes to be successful was a big awakening moment for me, because I was talking about it a lot and I was kind of doing stuff here and there, but I realized that I was spending too much time doing other things. So at that point, I changed which was mostly life balance at that time. I changed it to all work, all the time, no matter what. I did that for the next 6 years straight. I worked probably 15 hours a day for 6 years straight. I didn't go to birthday parties because any time that I was spending elsewhere was going to be taking away from what I was building. Now, I'm not saying it was the healthiest thing to do at the time, but for me, I was so dedicated on actually seeing something that I could see in the future. I had now cracked the code on how much hard work it actually took. So I was like, I'm going to go all in. So that chapter of my life, I think life is in chapters a lot. So I had the creativity and to find out who I was. Then I had the business chapter where my work-life balance had to change from mostly fun to mostly work, which I really enjoyed though too. So doing that every single day for the next 5 or 6 years. And after that point, then I had to analyze everything I was doing, and then that's when I created my new work-life balance. What really helped me was drawing boundaries and finding what I needed to have in my life, what I needed to make time for. Because in the new chapter of my life, I wanted to really prioritize my health and my sleep. At the very beginning, I talked about silencing the noise, all of these other people telling you what your work-life balance should be or what you should be spending your time on. Once you crack the code and you understand what you want to do, or at least what you want to try and see if it could be successful for you, you have to put the amount of work in. So it doesn't mean you need to, redline too much where you could be detrimental to your health, but figure yourself out and see what that work-life balance is for you. But also, if you have big ambitions, then your actions have to match it. So there's like a fine line that you have to figure out yourself, and then also figure out what you want to accomplish and be realistic about that. I think once you can do that, that's when you'll be happy with the journey, and you'll have the work-life balance that you desire. And yeah, that's what I would say about that. That makes sense? All right, another question?
So I'm the videographer for my rowing team, and
Awesome.
when I first started making videos for like their Instagram account, I kind of started using like some of my ideas, like what music I think is gonna go with it, like which I do kind of like some EDM and then like rock and stuff, and
Yeah.
like I think that kind of like fueled my creativity.
Yeah.
But then like when I see these other videos, like where they're just kind of like using these like popular like songs that you find on the radio and stuff, and like they gain like so much more popularity.
Because they're using the trending
Then-
sound?
Yeah, because it's like a trend sound.
Yeah.
And I'm like, kind of a question that I've kind of had for a while now is just like, how do you find the difference between like using your own creativity for like aspects such as that, but also like making like finding the balance between like popularity and
Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So at the very foundation of it all, the video has to be valuable in some way, shape, or form. Is this really recently or in the last maybe 6 months? Yeah, because there was a recent thing that happened with trending sounds that it was like, oh wait, like they were getting, I think there were some copyright restrictions that were happening or like some licensing agreements that were ending. As long as the video is valuable and over time, you'll find progress within it. I would do a little bit of both. And I would find strategic ways of using those hit songs that have the notoriety or they have like, that people are, they recognize it, so they're willing to listen a little bit longer. If you're not going to use a trending sound, the video still has to be valuable. So if the video is like super entertaining, or is it informative, or is it educational, like what is the value point within the video, then you have a chance over time to find success. But if it's just videos that's just documenting what's going on, it might not grow. I would always resort back to value, just ensure that there's some value in there. You could put a voiceover over top of the song that you like, and maybe whatever you're speaking, maybe what you create is a trending sound that people start using. Tom, who I mentioned on TikTok that grew to 170,000, people at first only wanted to hear when he was talking about Star Wars and Star Trek and all like that kind of stuff, because he's like, a super nerd, like that's what his like, he always call himself, like, I like to nerd out about these movies. Like, okay, cool. But then he would talk about psychology and the video would get like 200 views, and he was like, I'm getting 200,000, 2 million, 8 million on these videos, and then when I want to do something else that I'm really passionate about, nobody cares. But you can't, within finding what works for your certain brand or business is part of the process, but you can't lose who you are in the process. Eventually, that other target demographic is going to find you as well and then be a part of the equation. So he kept on putting stuff about psychology and about love that nobody was watching. And then eventually one of those broke through as well. So now he has a target demographic that's coming in for the love psychology stuff. And then he has this other target demographic that's coming out for the Star Wars videos. And now he's got a mix of all of these people that, they're able to learn something from both sides. And maybe those people that were coming for the love psychology stuff are also starting to find movies that they didn't know existed, now that they're falling in love with those, and they're excited that they met him through this channel, but they also listened to his other content, and now they're into that. So you start building this community of value, and over time, you'll find these different target demographics that'll come and love your stuff, but over time, you'll have a bigger following because of that. Yes?
Slightly off topic, but you mentioned you brought a project to Sundance. What's the process for that?
If you didn't have the internet, I would say go film festival, that's the way to go every single time. But the internet is the biggest film festival of all if you can put it out into the world and have success with it over time. The best way to get a project into Sundance is to have a producer that's done another Sundance project before, and you have them as a producer on your project as well. Now, that's not the only way. There are the Cinderella stories that do get picked up. It's submitting at the end of the day. You have to have your film done. I think the submissions end in September. But we went to Sundance in 2017. We won this contest in Detroit for a short film that we did called Elevated Remedies. It was about suicide. And it was a really passionate project that myself and my two partners at the time, my business partners, we both acted in it, and then the other partner wrote and directed it. We put it into this competition in Detroit, and we won it. And they sent us to Sundance for the first time. We had nothing. Knew nothing about Sundance. We get to Sundance, and we made the most connections we've ever made. And because we got sent there, we had a project, and we had all of our other projects with lookbooks for each of them. We went there, and that's where we got our first deal. Was because we were in the room on a dance floor with somebody who had like a $50 million slate. We had a low-budget, high-concept indie horror film that fit their slate, and then that's how we got our first deal. So highly recommend going to these film festivals, highly recommend going them if you're an actor or whatever you are. I would go as a producer first, saying I'm a producer that also acts, so that way you can bring a project to the table versus going in and asking for an opportunity. You bring an opportunity to the table. The more you can bring to the table, when we talked about value in the video, it's also in business as well. If you can bring value to the table, then people will start believing in what you can do. So if you do have a project and you're submitting it and it's not getting picked up, it doesn't mean that your project sucks. It just means that maybe you don't know somebody that can just greenlight it for you right there.
To add on to what you said and stuff like that about value, how do you create content that puts yourself in their shoes, especially when you want to reach the person individually for them to relate to you?
Yeah. So I would say I wouldn't worry about everybody else. I would focus on sharing your journey. Once you take the negative things that people are perceived as negative and you use it as your power, everything changes. So it's not about creating content and yes, you want it to be relatable, so you want to share things about you, and that's why sharing your negative experiences and the things that made you who you are so key. But once you become super comfortable in who you are and you're realistic and authentic when you put content out, that's what people can read. That's what they find relatability in, because now they're seeing themselves and they're seeing the things that they don't want to share with people, but they're seeing that you're sharing them, and now that maybe gives them more confidence to share whatever they want to as well. Dive into who you are and what kind of value you bring to the world, and when you put that out there and you start testing the target demographics to see who likes your content, who doesn't, then you'll see kind of who your tribe is. Whatever you do in life, whatever career you choose, it might be the first choice might be the best choice. It might be the third, the 12th, or like me, like the 50th. But the hardest moments in my life, when it got really, really difficult, or when I was going through something tragic or a breakup or what have you, those were the moments that I buckled down and I put all of that energy into what I was doing. And that's when I made the biggest leaps in business. A lot of times we get to the point where we're like, why is this so hard? Why is this so difficult, man? Like it was just so good last month. When you realize that it's like a trampoline. It's literally like you're going down, but it launches you into the next level. So anytime you're going through something difficult, whether it's personal or business, if you understand that this magic dark period is something that's going to elevate you, that allows you to understand the moment, live in that moment, and take advantage of that dark moment to then propel you to the next level where eventually you'll be super happy that you went through whatever you went through. So that's me also being authentic and sharing everything. So one thing I'm really excited about right now is hopefully based on all of the strikes that are going on, it's going to recalibrate the whole business and allow new filmmakers to come through and to show a whole different lens. One thing that the studios did, which is totally understandable, is that initially they would hire film students because they trusted them to come make the movies that they were maybe learning in school or creating or what have you. And then they started seeing what films do well in the box office, especially now since we have a limited box office. So if you have a limited box office and you're a studio, they're only spending money on films that are almost guaranteed to make money at low risk. They're always trying to mitigate risk. So that's why you're seeing all these big Marvel movies and all of that, because the IP, the intellectual property, has a baked-in fan base, so it's gonna get a lot of attention. But it also costs a lot of money. But on the other flip side is low-budget horror films, like Saw. The first Saw was made for $1 million. And over time, the low-budget, high-concept film did really well. And the reason that horror films do well in theaters is because the target demo. Actually, let's ask this. Why do you think that horror films do well at the box office? Anybody have a thought?
Because people want to feel that fear.
Feel that fear? Okay.
And they want to walk
Two things. One, they're, like you said, they're high concepts. They know what they're interested in. Two, they're by far the most low-budget genres.
Mhm.
There's, like you said, less risk involved.
Yeah.
So low-budget.
So it's the horror community at large is really big. So, but what comes with that is also creating using the same formula that all the other horror films are using. But women like to see horror films most, and they don't want to be scared alone, so they bring their friends or their significant other. That's why horror films, they're low concept or high concept but low budget, so it's less of a risk, and they can do well over time, right? Saw now is on Saw 10, right? It's made over $1 billion. But James Wan couldn't get that film made at first. Imagine going in and pitching that film without a concept trailer. So he couldn't get it made. So he went back to Australia. He created a concept trailer. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. It's about 8 or 9 minutes. He created a concept trailer, and it's absolutely brilliant. So at that time, that style of film and how he did it, he was able to showcase it in his concept trailer. So when he did that, that's how he got the budget to do that film. He got to direct it, so on and so forth. Now he's doing Aquaman and all this, all the other things he's doing. So based on where the studios were giving the money to now with these indie features, over time, I think based on this recalibration and based on the internet, which I always say is slowly saving the world because it amplifies our voices and our visions, I think that is all going to allow new filmmakers to bring new ideas to the table and get a shot at actually doing well, whether it's at the box office or streaming or just a digital distribution. Over time, I think there's like Ari Aster is somebody who's super interesting to look at now too. Every one of his films is different and makes you think, and I don't love all of his stuff, but I'm watching everything he's making. So I think more artists like that are willing and confident to come and bring their ideas to the table without conforming to whatever the business is telling you need to make. Those kind of artists are going to push through, hopefully, and inspire other people to do the same.
I've been wanting to make a horror thing for a long time, and I haven't really expressed that with anybody. But I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I don't know where to start. I don't know how to get that money for a set, how to really do anything like that.
Yeah.
All I know is that I want to make a horror set, and I want it to be an analog horror because that keeps people with that uneasy feeling for a longer time.
Yeah. Are you think so? You say a set, so you pretty much want it to take place in one location?
1 or 2 locations. It would make sense.
That's really smart to keep it in one location or two locations, because the more locations you have, the more company moves, the more this, the more budget, all of that. So if you can get really strategic about one location, then that's really, really great. So what I would start with is you go online and you look up, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but it's Save the Cat Beat Sheet. Have you heard of the Save the Cat book? For filmmakers, it's an outline and an understanding of, Save the Cat is basically at some point, I think it's within like the first 8 pages, you need your protagonist to save a cat from the tree. Because it doesn't have to not in literal terms, but if you see them help somebody, then you're gonna root for them throughout the whole movie. So you have to have that save the cat moment. Every film that you watch, it's hard for me to watch film now because I'll analyze and it's like a math equation. I'm like, oh, there's that. There's his refusal to go on the journey. There's this. There's the all is lost moment. But once you can identify those things, you can see the formula. I would never start writing a script or a concept without doing an outline. So the Save the Cat Beat Sheet is an outline that you'll find on the internet. It's out there for free. And it'll tell you what needs to happen at what moment in the script. But it's important to create a whole outline for any film that you're doing, because you don't want to just write freely and just wherever it takes you. You need some sort of structure. And it's hard for us to get there, but I would do the outline first, because a lot of what you outline at the end informs what happens at the beginning. And if you just start from writing from the beginning and seeing where it goes, you'll never finish it because you're going to try to make it perfect as you go. So having an outline is where I'd start. At that point, you can either say, let me write the whole script, or just write a 15-page short. And that's where you would potentially start, is like, how do I take one scene out of this whole project, this whole film, and focus on it? But the hardest thing about a short film is, how do you earn the ending? How do you start somewhere and make it intriguing enough to keep people's attention, but also to have a character arc within it to earn something at the end? So focusing on that, once you get something like that, I would highly recommend watching the Saw trailer, because it was absolutely brilliantly done. And then because of these people that you know, or with the internet, getting the right people together to go film that would be huge. You can, in the film world, you can sell a project, like the Rudolph piece that I did, that I was offered a deal for. I didn't take the deal because they wouldn't let me direct it. They were offering me a large check to write, but I wanted to direct it and produce it, so I turned them down, which they weren't happy with. But once I knew they weren't happy, I realized, because I have something that they want that could be super successful, and I have the proof. So now we're working on filming it next year. But I would start with the Save the Cat Beat Sheet. That'll change your life. I've never written a film without using the Save the Cat Beat Sheet first. And with TV projects, in particular dramas, there's another book called Story Maps by Paul Caviezel, something like that. It's yellow, it's $10 on Amazon, and that will break down how you create a drama. And once you learn the ins and outs of outlines and characters and character arcs, you can do anything. Also, we have a podcast. My acting coach is also, he coaches Will Smith and Gerard Butler and J-Lo. We have a podcast at our studio called Coach. We just had the co-president and head of motion pictures of Westbrook, Will Smith's mini studio production company. John Moan just came on, and he talked about how to be a producer and what it takes to be really successful at it. Highly recommend watching that too. And I know we have, we're kind of wrapping up. Anybody else?
What was the first kind of process you took into making this business? So did you reach out to someone? Did you start a website?
Yeah.
First step?
So I created a logo on WordSwag. This was not the logo I created on WordSwag. It was just something just to have, right? So I had a website, but the main thing was me communicating through my social media platforms and talking to people for free. Just going, my next biggest client came from me talking to my cousin about how she needs to change her social media. She told her boss, and her boss ended up signing us for the next 6 months for consulting. So the first steps, I would say, a branding, something that people can believe in, but you can just literally make it on one of these apps. Create a simple website, could just be a homepage of what you do. I would create a few different pitching materials like this. You can use pitch.com. It's super easy and affordable. It's like $8 or $10 a month. And they have all of these templates. So now you don't have to be a master at design. You could just use their templates and put your information in there. It's highly recommend using that. And then once you have that in a brief site and some sort of branding, I would start everybody you meet, I would talk about what you do. The woman at the grocery store, your teachers, your friends, just start giving that information for free. And people started saying, Like, when did you start doing this? I've been in the trenches and I know what I'm talking about now. And that's why I always talk about being a weapon, having this weapon of certainty. And you're that sharp, and you can go out, anybody you talk to is going to be interested, they're going to listen, and then eventually somebody's going to give you a shot. It's hard for somebody to give you a shot, but if you're giving the information for free, or you show up like Yuli did and work for free. And now he went to Sundance with us last year. He went to Puerto Rico for the Jake Paul thing. And it was for him working for free for 3 months to get close enough to help out and to the point where I could bring more business, and then he worked. So get close enough to the people that you see that you could align with, start giving your time for free, and then you build that, you just build those relationships. So when the time's right, or if your product is right, you'll get people that believe in it too, and they'll tell their friends about it. And then when you get that opportunity, you got to make it the best experience of their life, because people remember how you make them feel. And if you go in and you change their life and you give them more information about whatever your business is, and you're not at the end of the day worried about how much money you're making, they're forever grateful for that, and they will tell the world about you. And you'll have one of those people you'll see, and eventually you'll have 4 of those people, and then you'll have 100 of those people, and then you'll just have consistency with that. We'll wrap it up. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me today. Hopefully you found that informative.